Thanks for joining us on In the Studio with 519. I'm your host, Dan Savoy. This time, Dan Boshart checks in with producer, actress, and model Kate Amundsen, who has a new movie out called Donna, Stronger Than Pretty. But before we check in with Dan and Kate, let's take a look at Donna.
I have to know your name.
It's Donna.
Donna, it's never too late to dream. You know what? Sometimes you can be a really ungrateful bitch.
Let go of me. I'm real stuck.
What do you mean?
I never know what mood he's gonna be in.
How you gonna raise 3 kids with no job, no money, and no husband? Watch me. Don't stop fighting for your kids. Or for yourself. Women gotta be stronger than pretty. You look like a warrior to me.
You want to tell us a little bit about the movie itself?
Sure, yeah. The title is Donna, Stronger Than Pretty. I play Donna, the lead, which was a lot of fun for me. It is about a young woman and her life over the span of 3 decades as she attempts to follow her dreams, but instead gets caught in a relationship that turns abusive. And so it's all about her finding her voice and, making it through that. And it's a movie with a message, and that's what's been really important to us. The director, it's based on his mother's true story. So it's a very personal film for him.
You got involved with this movie a few years ago. Actually, it was originally planned as a short film, right?
Yes. That was a few years ago. So this has been years in the making. But the great thing about it was it really gave us an opportunity to really get to know each other and trust each other and get a really good sense of the story that we're telling and how we want to tell it. So in that way, it was a really great for us.
It was like a really, obviously, like you said, it was a personal film for Jarrett because it was based on his mother's story. I read that you actually filmed some of it in her house.
Yes. So for the duration of filming, cast and crew stayed in her house. I stayed in her actual bedroom, which was wild. She was staying with a friend at the time. And this was the house that she did end up buying for herself. So it was super intimate, and it gave me, a whole, way into her world. And so even her dance studio, which we filmed a scene in, all these places in Long Island, which I had never been to before, were so important for her and really gave me this unique way to step into her life, even deeper than I had before.
You really fit the part, I thought.
Oh, thank you.
You have that sort of like 60s, 70s look about you. Especially, I think your hair was longer when you filmed it too, wasn't it?
Yeah. We actually put in extensions for when she was younger. And then, when they go into the relationship in the 80s, that's when she cuts it and, becomes more modern. So yes, I did just get a haircut. But thank you. I love the 70s vibe. I love period pieces in general. So it really was a dream for me to, play those decades.
Your other profession is modeling, of course. Did you enjoy that part of it? The different styles of clothing and stuff in the film?
Oh, yes. It was so much fun. It was pretty daunting just because her clothing is kind of an arc for her character. Same with her makeup and hair. And so there was a lot to keep track of. I even had to make a journal and work with our costume designer, Stephanie Lindsay, because there was so much to cover and there were so many characters for her to cover. She just did such an amazing job. But for me, it was so much fun because, I think the clothes really reflect where she is psychologically. And so, there really is such a shift with how she portrays herself throughout the film. And Donna in real life was this very fashionable woman with the big hair, the loud outfits. All those vintage photos are so fun to look at. And so it was definitely fun for me. I had a great time.
You became close with Donna herself, didn't you?
Yes.
Did you use any of that for the character, or did you basically research that in other ways?
I would say probably both. I took what I could from her. I was able to read some of her journals at the time, which that definitely helped me get into her mind space more. And, obviously speaking with her, seeing how enigmatic she is. We unfortunately lost her this last year, which was really, really sad. But, when she was still here, you could just see how glowing she was, even after going through, all this trauma for such a long amount of her life, 3 decades, to still come out the other end and have this positive attitude towards life. She was so fun to be around. And so I think I tried to get that from her, of despite the pain, despite the trauma, she still was so admirable and inspiring.
You became really invested in this production as well, right? I seen that you were listed as a producer.
Yes.
So how involved are you with the promotion of it? And I know that Jarrett's production company is kind of framed around this whole idea of empowerment for women and that sort of theme. So, I mean, I dare say agenda, because it sounds like a bad word sometimes, but I mean, there's a purpose to what he's doing.
Right. Yes. Obviously, women's issues are very dear to him, because he still feels the trauma. It doesn't just go away. This is a part of his daily life. And so I would say my role as a producer was very fluid. I do what I can to promote the film. I'm doing all these interviews and I'm happy to promote it. I love the message that we're sending. I think a message of hope is probably one of the best messages we can send to the world. And to support women and men who, unfortunately also go through abusive relationships. So, we're just trying to provide an outlet, and I do what I can. I mean, I want to promote it as much as possible. I'm very proud of it.
What was your own family life like growing up? I mean, obviously you're much younger, so you didn't grow up during the 60s and 70s where stay-at-home moms were more common, and you're more likely to get that message of, marry a rich man type of thing.
Right. I actually had a much different experience. My mom is an avid feminist. So I grew up with very progressive parents. And I actually grew up Mormon, which is kind of ironic because they were progressive Mormons, and which almost seems like, I don't know, it just seems funny. But, and I would ask my mom, I was like, why were you so gung ho about this? They no longer practice, but I asked my mom about it, and she was like, Jesus was a radical. And so that's why she was drawn to it. And we have a long history on both sides of my family of Mormonism. So it's been passed on through the decades. But definitely my mom was taught to be self-reliant, because her actually dad was an abusive alcoholic. So I am familiar with abuse in that way, just because my mom experienced it. So it is personal to me as well, but I personally, thank goodness, have not experienced it, but I can see the damage that it's done to my mom, and she, is still recovering from it. It takes years. It just does. And so I think that's also why Jarrett wanted to do that length of time, to cover those decades, because that's how long it took.
Sure. When did you start acting? Was acting the first thing that you wanted to do growing up, or was it more modeling?
I think I wanted to be in the arts in general. I think I was always very artistic, performing at home with my friends, singing, dancing. Judy Garland was my hero growing up. So I was always, into that. And then when we moved to LA when I was 13 or 14, I kind of was, new to LA. I was shy and I was gung-ho on being a model. And I was, acting really intimidated me because it's really scary. You're just totally exposing yourself. You have to be vulnerable in this job. And so I did start out modeling first. And, it was actually my commercial agent who encouraged me to take acting classes. The first commercial I got was kind of my first experience being on set. And that's when I really got to, be exposed to the magic of being on set. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to take classes. I want to challenge myself. And it's taught me a lot about myself and about the world. So I'm really grateful for it. My dad, Michael Amundsen, who edited the film, he's a filmmaker as well. So, I've been exposed to this all my life. He was the one growing up exposing me to the older films and to Judy Garland. So he's been instrumental in my wanting to be in the arts.
That's fantastic. So you have a really rich background in the arts and a lot of encouragement, obviously, from your family. How excited were you last November 3rd with our new vice president?
Oh, you have no idea. What a relief. Not to get too political, but I think, there is that toxic machismo that is alive and well. And this film, kind of tackles that. And unfortunately, men in some ways are victims to our culture as well. They are just as a part of this conversation as women are. And oftentimes men who abuse, that's what they were exposed to growing up. So I think there's a real conversation that needs to be had about men. And, we still live by these old constructs of what it means to be a man. And showing any sort of sensitivity or emotion is bad. Like it's just so small-minded. There are so many ways to be a human. And, and men are very much part of this conversation. So yes, I was very relieved.
Yeah, certainly. I think the healing and the education has to come on both sides. It's not just
yes,
a one-sided issue.
Yes, absolutely.
But obviously, women are much more affected, or have been much more affected over the years.
Yes, for hundreds of years.
Yes. What do you think about the way things are today? I mean, aside from the fact, obviously, we have, or you have a female vice president now, which is a huge leap.
Yes.
I mean, like the Me Too movement, all these other things that are happening. What's your take on things today? Do you think we still have a long ways to go?
I do, but I'm hopeful. I think, we have to be hopeful. Otherwise, what else is there? Mm-hmm. So, I think a lot of steps have been made, but I think, it's a long journey ahead. And so we just got to keep focused on it. But, as I said, I am relieved. I'm glad that things are hopefully moving in the right direction. It's obviously great to have Kamala Harris in there. And, you look around the world and you see even the response to COVID, some of the countries that have done the best have been led by women. And so why not give women a shot? Like, we've been so cut out of society and how things are set up. Like, let's take a chance here. I mean, women are great. They've done so much.
Yeah, I agree 100%. What do you have that you're working on right now? I heard you have a big project that you're working on yourself. Is it still a secret, or can you talk about it a little bit?
I can talk about it a little bit. It's actually my mother's story. I told you a little bit about growing up Mormon and her teaching at BYU and being a feminist. And so it has to do with that and with the Mormon church having a grip on society in Utah during the 90s and, on education. And so I think that's a very relevant topic still to be had. So yeah, it's a really important project to me. So I'm kind of taking my time with it. I want to do it right. So I may approach other projects before that. before I really go in on the deep end, because that's really the one that is the one. So, but other than that, I have other projects that are in either post-production or on the festival circuit right now. One of which that I'm really excited about is it's kind of a thriller horror, almost revenge story. I think it is a revenge story that's not too dissimilar from Donna, but told in a totally different way. Our director is James Frost, and he's an amazing artist. So I'm very excited about that one. And that's close to being finished. We just did ADR on that. It's called Almond Wood. So keep an eye out for that. I'm very excited about it.
Thanks to Kate and Dan for that great interview. And don't forget to check out Kate's new movie, Donna, Stronger Than Pretty, available on demand.